friends, welcome back to another stellar episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their sex magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined on this hell-raising finale by our friend and guest host, Carmelita Valdez-McCoy.
Hi, friend.
Welcome back. We have hit the end of the Hellraiser franchise for now.
For now.
Of Hellraiser Classique, even though this is not an old movie. This is the end of the Hellraisers before we get our reboots, which we will be discussing tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. Guys, a little business before we dive in with Carmelita here. Please go to our Patreon, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show. We have plenty of amazing sites to show you over there. Lots of fun stuff. We work really hard to try to fill that up for our patrons. If you want to make sure you have an episode every day this month, we've recorded them, but some of them are Patreon exclusive. So again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Unleash the full power of the Mega Marathon over there. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. Subscribe there. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on. We would love it if you'd share the hell out of everything we're doing this October for the marathon. Make sure you leave ratings and reviews wherever you find us. It does help out a lot. So thank you in advance for all that. All right. Sorry, I'm incensed. I'm crazed. I felt like I was taking crazy pills as I was watching today's movie, Hellraiser Revelations.
It's wild.
You go on Letterboxd, right, for this one, or Hellraiser Judgment is today. Hellraiser Revelations were yesterday, right? So I went on Letterboxd to see which of my friends had checked out Hellraiser. Check out a lot of reviews. Those movies are hated. Fucking hated. I understand the hatred for Revelations, even though I thought it was an interesting addition to the franchise, right? I found enough sustenance and meat on the bone, as it were, with Revelations that I enjoyed it, right? I thought it was a perfectly fine, average movie. I did not expect to say this. I fucking liked Hellraiser Judgment a lot. Right now in my rankings, without the new Hellraiser being present, I have it as the 5th best Hellraiser movie. I have it one slot behind Inferno, which it pretty much is doing a version of, and one slot ahead of Bloodlines, right? The space and period piece Hellraiser. Mm-hmm. So to me, this hated entry, the last Hellraiser movie we've had, I think is a top half Hellraiser movie. I found this movie very interesting. I thought we got some really fun visuals. I thought Pinhead had a grandiose return, right? Pinhead in this one looked a lot better.
Yes.
Sounded like it really worked for me, Pinhead in this film in his limited run. The detective story is plenty engaging, right? We get a serial killer kind of tale, right? Running it down. A man haunted by, these things, facing it down. But where this movie sings to me is this just head on is almost like a fanfic. Like we're really addressing some of the big questions at the heart of the Hellraiser franchise, which in 10 movies we barely scratched the surface of, right? Alex and I had talked a little bit about the one true loving Christian God's role in all this fucking pleasure seeking. And this movie says, let's go there. And by the end of the movie, I was totally enthralled. I like sappy mythology, lore-based kind of stories. Mm-hmm. I thought that was worth the squeeze alone. I really, really liked Hellraiser Judgment, which I did not expect at all based on everyone else in the universe hating the shit out of it. So, Carmelita, open us up with your thoughts on Hellraiser Judgment.
I think your fanfic analogy is perfect here.
Yeah.
And as I was watching this, first watch, I had never seen this before. I had no idea what to expect. I did not read a synopsis. I went in cold.
Same.
Like, let's just give it to me. Let's find out what this is.
I read nothing except for people telling me it was dog shit and unwatchable.
Right. And it was really kind of fun to pick up on all the references, all of the influences that were clear here. And it's like, what happens if you take Seven Fincher 7, and you take
Oh,
the Constantine film and you mash them together with Hellraiser.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this is.
That works pretty goddamn perfectly as an equation for this movie.
Right? And so it's like, okay, is it as good as the original Hellraiser? Fuck no.
None of them are.
Is it as good as 7? Is it as good as Constantine? Like,
no.
But it's like, it's this little bubbling cauldron of all of these really cool influences.
Yeah.
Thrown together, and it's interesting to see how they weave these themes and images and influences.
Yeah, if you are coming into Hellraiser Judgment expecting earth-shattering cinema, I think that's a you problem.
Right, exactly.
Again, I want to come in and spend time in the Hellraiser universe. And what that means to me when I'm watching a franchise or a series, I want to explore the fucking lore. I want to explore the mythology and the icons of the franchise. And I was surprisingly hooked right off the bat, right? When it's just Pinhead rolling around the box. He just goes, obsolete. I wrote down some of his like little monologue, right? We live in an age where lust can be sated electronically. We need more than a wooden box. I was like, oh my God, they're fucking going right at it, right?
Yeah.
Technology may have advanced, but the sin remains the same. Faith is lost. There is a morality vacuum, right? I thought that was fucking awesome, right? It's kind of the thing we've been dabbling in since Hellworld, right? Where it's like we've pushed beyond this, right? There is a whole new world. So this kind of quaint, I'll go down to a brothel and I'll meet a fucking vagrant and he'll give me the box. That is, we have these immediately sated pleasures, right? The internet has become this place where you can find any dark delights you want, right? You can get as horrible and fucking sinful as you want instantaneously. I thought that was fucking awesome. Yes. I will say to that effect, the execution on we need to modernize our organization still seems pretty fucking quaint. Because we start off in a diddler's apartment with them writing a hand-written or hand-typed out. So they're still using typewriters and writing letters. And it still feels very old-timey and not technologically streamlined.
Well, and that sequence looks very much like 7. Like
exactly like 7.
The typewriter, and it's got, that color that kind of dingy color palette, and it was just screaming 7 at me.
There is a post-Fincher strata around filmmaking, right?
Yes.
Where a lot of people wanted to make Fincher flicks.
Yeah.
I wanted to walk through though this old-timey, quaint, small family business that is preparing souls for something. What did you make of? So now we have what's his name? Not the proprietor. What is the fucking name? I forgot.
The auditor.
The auditor is the guy who eats. The jury are the faceless.
The assessor.
That's the assessor. So we have the auditor, the assessor, right? The auditor writes down your sins.
Right.
The assessor comes in and eats them. He makes like a fucking paper salad with children's tears. Right? He comes in and eats this shit, regurgitates it out into a bucket where these naked ladies in kind of skimpy black underwear with no face skin.
Very busty ladies with no face skin.
There's a lot of busty ladies doing work in here, right? It's like a Hooters, but more scary by a little, not a lot. And they just eat the sin vomit out of the trough, decide your fate, right? Then we are introduced to this cleaning crew that is a giant man in a baby mask, and from his nether regions, right? Like he's like a Trojan horse where this gimp-suited gas mask person comes out and slices you up, your skin off. After these ladies have licked you clean and put their spittle back in your body to cleanse your inside, they rip your skin off. Presumably, then you are able to enter the flesh. So we kind of got like an old-timey car wash set up here. Walk me through this new addition to the lore and the imagery of Pinhead's operation here.
I thought it was really interesting to see them take it in the direction of this bureaucracy.
Yeah, right. They're like a DMV for sinners.
Right. Because that seems like so diametrically opposed to like wanton hedonism, the chaos of giving yourself over to pleasure and pain. And that seems it just seems like worlds away from bureaucracy, from what it's like sitting in a DMV, or even worse, the Social Security office. Ugh.
Yeah. This is essentially like that Albert Brooks movie, but you would call this one Defending Your Kink.
Yeah.
Although it's not really, I mean, these are like serious ass crimes these guys are committing, but it's very defending your life setup.
It's very interesting. I think you have the imagery of how the assessor assesses you. Like, he has to ingest your deeds.
I'm with you. The opening of this, while I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is happening? I was captivated. Because I was like, what the fuck? When that guy started eating the pages with children's tears and then throwing up, and then the busty lady's eating it, and they're just throwing all these new titles and job positions. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
At this point, I'm so desensitized to people being flayed alive.
Yes.
But that guy eating was disgusting. Fucking
disgusting. They had this like nasty stuff falling out of his mouth. He's drooling. My brother almost threw up on the couch. It was so repulsive. But that's what I mean. It's interesting. It's different. It's new. I know the immediate reaction is to say it's not as good as the first 4 Cenobites.
Well, no.
Nothing has been. This was interesting. Why is this the model that he sets up in his new hell? And as we get to the end, where Pinhead is this guy who is no longer feeling like he is in control of his own job and world, right? He's like a middle manager who's getting over micromanaged, and he wants to take that shit back. I think it is really interesting, man. I fully enjoyed it. And when the detective comes in, right, we've seen this rigmarole of how these guys go through it with the diddler, and he writes all of these fucking sins, right? Killed a dog, blew these people up. Well, you were a soldier fighting for your country. It was allowed. But what did you feel? The guy comes in with his little children's tears. He's like, I'm ready to eat. He's like, that's a big stack. He starts vomiting this black ooze. The jurors eat it, and they're like, ah. And he just goes, oh, shit, there's trouble, right? The cleaner ladies who are licking him and making him do this fucking whatever, they're found dead. And he runs out with the puzzle box. Then they add this massive what the fuck moment in this scene where he goes into this extra room that is bright white light, and this tall, beautiful blonde woman in like a fucking white power suit, right, walks out and just says, you got to let him go. He's not for you, right? We are presumed to imagine that he is an innocent, right? Pinhead comes in. He's like micromanaging. He comes in. He has a little dab of the paper, and he's like, let him go. He'll find his way back to us. We are led to believe that he's innocent. That's not the fucking shocking part. This is the first time in Hellraiser that heaven has fucking announced itself as part of the fucking corporate structure. What did you make of this moment?
No, I love this.
Love this.
I love this because I love stories like this where we have to acknowledge if there's light, there's darkness.
Yes.
If there's good, there's evil. These things do not exist independently of each other. They're entwined.
Yeah.
There is a give and take. There's an ebb and flow. You can't have one without the other.
Right.
And like, I think the idea, that really overly simplistic idea that like vanquish evil, good will vanquish evil, that's like the ideal outcome, but that's not how the universe works.
Yeah.
There's a balancing act.
Like our brain is gray matter. It's all gray areas, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, the first 3 movies operate in this almost kind of Lovecraftian religion, right?
Yeah.
That there is this labyrinth that looks very much like our minds, that at the end there is no good or evil, there's just flesh and what we're willing to do, right? It's a very meaty kind of thing, right? At the middle of the labyrinth is Leviathan, this box that pulls us in, right? The more we examine, the more we're destroyed, right? By the time we get to part 4, Bloodlines, we're still kind of doing that gimmick. When we get to Inferno in part 5, this is where we're like, these are personalized hells, right? This is not a person finds a box and the game begins per se, right?
Right.
They do find the box and touch it, but this feels very different, right? As we keep going on, now we're playing with this. Pinhead is more of this angry, demonic hellkeeper, right? And me and Alex were talking about it, right? If it's kind of the big problem at the middle of, Christianity, is that if God is all powerful and all knowing, he created the devil specifically to do what he did and to punish us and hurt us. And why do we need to get punished and hurt if he knows that, right? If the moment he creates me, he knows I'm going to be this horrifying sinner, why go through the fucking pony show? Just don't create me or send me immediately to hell. But that's what there is this kind of kinkification, right, of this Christian God. Mm-hmm. He enjoys our suffering. And that sounds an awful lot like the fucking Cenobites' corporate motto.
Yeah.
And to actually put a face on it and say these fucking entities from hell are here punishing sinners, he has to be aware of that. He has to have some knowledge of that. This has to be part of it. And then we see the angel who he says was the garden keeper of Eden, right? Who dealt with Eden after the fact, right? I thought that was awesome. And just an obvious fucking addition to this franchise. In that one revelation alone, and we'll save that final showdown till the end, that one revelation alone made this so much more enjoyable than the vast amount of sequels I've already watched. Because again, show me something new. Give me a new point of view. This fucking lit my imagination on fire. And I fucking loved it.
No, I get it, my friend. Like we've talked about this before in previous episodes. I grew up Catholic. I love Catholic imagery. And there is something very that old world way of looking at God, And when you think about like the flagellants, believers who used to take, who used to
the cat and nine tails and shit.
And whip themselves. Like,
oh yeah.
How well does that parallel, with the people who seek out those far reaches of pleasure and pain, and it leads them to the Cenobites.
Yeah, I also grew up in a really religious area, right, where we're always taught that. And there is this Old Testament kind of thing, right, that our flesh only exists to be corrupt and get us in trouble.
Yes.
You jerk off, that's a corruption, right? That's a sin, right? You have premarital sex, that's a sin. We are only around to help shuttle in more souls that can then be fucking tortured, even though God knows if they're good or bad. Whatever. It's this really weird. So the idea that our flesh is a curse is a perfect fucking parallel to run with Hellraiser.
Absolutely.
Right? And I found that fascinating. And I love any kind of horror or science fiction that has religious overtones, right? Because I think if you really study religion a lot, you're like, almost every great tragedy that's ever happened always happens under the name of a religion, right? Whether it's a church or politics or nation, these are all different forms of religion, right? There's something that let you dehumanize and justify terrible behavior to others. Again, a perfect place for a Hellraiser movie to go. And as we see this teacher figure, right, the serial killer teaching his lessons about biblical adherence, right, via the 10 Commandments, even though he kills way more than 10, right?
Yeah.
I fucking thought that was brilliant. I fucking loved it. I thought that was a wonderful addition to this franchise. Now, the other thing I really liked right off the bat, so they're giving me lots of weird imagery. They put heaven in the middle of this. Pinhead looks way better.
Way better.
They drop in the middle of this serial killer. I thought the kills in this movie, or if not the kills, the remains of the kills, the crime scenes of the kills, were fucking awesome. That scene where that first trollop is found in her apartment. I thought that was amazing. That was one of those moments where, like, I've seen a lot of shit in horror movies, right? You see a lot of the same kind. I've never seen that shit in my life. So the trollop is all splayed out, right? I am a jealous god with this loop of her. This is my baby. I love him.
I worship him.
I worship him.
Yeah.
And they're like, this seems kind of weird for the, fucking guy to be doing. Like, why is it this killer, right? We're getting the what's his name? Not the proprietor,
the preceptor.
The preceptor, that's what it is, which is translated to teacher, right? They're like, this is kind of low key for the preceptor, the perceptor, whatever. They see the fucking corpse move. They lift it up. There's this massive wound that's been stapled back together. They pull her dog, still alive, from her womb, right? The baby was put in the womb, all this immaculate conception kind of fucking, sacrileges. I fucking leaned back on my couch and I said, that's awesome too. That's the story of me watching Hellraiser Judgment, is just going, that's awesome too. And I don't want to pretend that these are not awesome.
And then they call me out, right? Because in that moment when the dog is alive, I said, oh my God, thank God the dog's alive.
Yes. Yeah.
And then later, when the kill is talked about later, mentions it, that people hearing about this murder, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, that poor dog.
Poor dog.
And I'm like, guilty.
He's right. Okay, here's a real life story I'll share with you. It kind of fucked me up. And it really changed my mindset, right?
Uh-huh.
So we're at a gas station in LA. We're filling up the art department truck, right? It's the end of the day. We're getting snacks, whatever. There's this homeless guy and his dog right outside of the gas station. So as we're walking by, my buddy's a real good guy, right? And he's just like, hey, man, can we get you anything? Like, we don't have cash. Do you want whatever? He's like, yeah, if I could have some whatever. So me and him, we each got him some waters, Gatorade, and some sandwiches, right? No big deal. A couple bucks, spread the good, right? Help this guy out. No one wants to live like that. Fucking help them out, right? Treat them like human beings. We go outside. We give him all the shit. We're getting back in our truck, and we hear this fucking commotion. This van whipped up on him, right? And they come out, and they start yelling at him. He's screaming, no, help me, help me. So we throw our shit in the truck, and we run back. We're like, what the fuck is happening? So they were sent from the city. Someone had called in a complaint.
Oh, no.
That his dog was living in inhumane conditions. They sent city employees to take this motherfucker's dog from him, to then possibly just go to a shelter or be put down, whatever the fuck would happen. Yeah. They took his dog because they said the dog was living in unsafe conditions. And I'll never forget, it just hit me. I sat there with my jaw open, and my buddy's trying to talk him out of it, and I just go, what about him? Right. What about his fucking conditions? They're like, that's not our job. They fucking forcibly took this motherfucker's dog, his only companion in a world of pain and misery. They fucking took his dog. Because someone saw that, and they didn't see him as someone who needed help. They saw the dog as someone who needed help. And that moment rung so true, because I was like, I think we do. Yeah. It's harder for us to dehumanize an animal that we've anthropomorphized.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that fucking breaks my heart. But that line really fucking smacked me in the face and brought back that horrifying memory.
Yeah.
But we do, man. We treat people like trash in this world so often that I think it's just so easy for us to. This gets back to the religious headspace too. If we see something like that, we're like, well, she must have done something to deserve it, but the dog didn't. And I was like, that's the fucked up perverse math that we're all doing. This is the modern world that the preceptor is fucking rallying against wrongly. Like, it's not a healthy response.
No. But again, similar to Seven, when you hear John Doe in Seven kind of give his spiel, you're like, oh, he's not 100% wrong.
When he says in Seven, you see a mortal sin on every street corner and you don't bat an eye.
Right.
He's right. I think the rest of us would argue we didn't decide what sins were.
Right.
We might be sinning. We're not breaking the law. We're here to have a good time. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Fuck you. Don't put that shit on me. But in the context of a film where they specifically state is abject truth that the Christian God does exist. Or let me rephrase this. a version of the Christian God that might not match the version that our books
Right.
have created, but the true entity, right? Who definitely is going against what the books say about him, right? His propaganda wing. In a world where we have to assume that there is an absolute deity running this show, that fucking crazy John Doe shit hits a little different.
Absolutely.
Imagine if you found out those motherfuckers, right? All those crazy religious people are always protesting, whatever. What if you found out those fucking guys were closer to the truth than you? That would be fucking heartbreaking and mind-melting all at the same time.
All at the same time.
Yeah. It's just a fucking huge question that they've added to the very center of this movie that, again, makes every single scene and decision so much more interesting.
No, I hear you. I think it is really kind of cool too to think about. It's like you have an updating of the modes of how the Cenobites are going to try to reach people, while simultaneously having this let's go back to like the origins of good
The
and
very
evil,
origin of our species. Yeah.
Yeah, and the relationship between those two things. Let's go back to creation, while also exploring like how does humanity get to a point of reaching the Cenobites and interacting with them. Like it's really interesting. It is.
And I think it pays off well in the serial killer story, right? I think it's a pretty telegraphed ending, right? If you watch Hellraiser, you know that whoever our main character is, for the most part, is a person that's pushing it too far and they're going to suffer, right? Pretty much from Hellraiser 3 on, right? Because you could say in 1 and 2, it's Kirsty. She didn't really push it. Victim. Part 3, the reporter. She's seeking the story, but not the pleasures of the flesh, right?
Yes.
From part 4 on, we are essentially exclusively following people that have it coming, right? And they're on their path in some way, shape, or form. So I was not shocked at all to find out that this guy was. The one twist I thought was going to happen is that I thought the new detective girl was going to be the auditor, because she had sunglasses that kind of looked like his goggle glasses. So I thought it was going to be, I was afraid they were going to do this as a false reality thing, which a lot of the Hellraiser sequels fall into. Oh, this is all theater of the mind or a video game, which cannot but hurt the movie that is about the fucking flesh, right? So I love that it wasn't that. But I kind of figured this guy was in on it, right?
Sure.
So walk me through your thoughts as we unfurl the full culmination of this fucking tale, this crime tale that we're on.
Yeah. So, you know, what really struck me, and I wasn't shook by the reveal that he's, you know, this detective who's been our main character is actually the serial killer. That wasn't shocking. Yeah. But I really liked him.
Oh, you liked the main detective?
I did.
He's kind of a bookworm, getting his job done, yeah.
I mean, I love a Dickens reference. This guy's a fan of Dickens. I'm a fan of Dickens.
I want to see some receipts. Is A Tale of Two Cities really more popular than Harold Potter? I'd like to know.
Like, I mean, that's a good question.
Stephen King hasn't outsold A Tale of Two Cities at this point? I don't know.
But, like, I'm a big Dickens fan. So immediately I'm like, hey, I see you. Like,
he's a learned, educated cop. We all want to believe that's a thing.
Yeah. He's, I like in that scene with the auditor where he's, you know, answering the auditor's questions. He sees, like, he gets what's happening there to a point. Obviously, he doesn't know like all the behind the scenes, but it's like the auditor doesn't have to repeat himself and dumb the questions down. And there's like a cool there's a cool exchange between the two of them where like he'll answer a question.
He's just like, get on with it.
Yeah. And then the auditor's like, huh.
Thank you for not wasting. Wow. Yeah, he's like taken aback. This is the thing, though. When they reveal that he does
I love that.
right? It makes his induction way more interesting. The auditor taking pause and be like, The fact that, as Pinhead says, it's not that he was innocent, it's that your deeds were so full of vile.
Rancid.
They were so rancid and vile that you fucking choked the guy who eats the pages. Like, you fucking choked him to death. That was awesome. So it makes that seem way more interesting. Why is he not more gobsmacked at the thought of being in a supernatural environment?
Yeah.
Because he knows he fully is devoted to this idea of angels and imaginary things already. When he finds out they're not, he's less shocked than he should be. That makes sense. It makes the scenes with his wife way more interesting. Because him coming home late and bringing her the wrong flowers, you're like, what a piece of shit. Until you realize this is his slow and methodical, getting his own joy out of watching her suffer more and more. Right. Knowing what's come to her. These minor aggressions. You're like, what a waste of time for the guy who's about to kill her soon enough. I fucking still love that. He wakes up from a nightmare and you're like, what a weird thing to be like, let's just initiate sex. Only to then run out and make her feel like she's a bad partner that doesn't understand the weight on his shoulders. It makes those scenes better. This is a movie that, by making the right choices when they do, I feel like you get this domino effect that travels back through the movie and makes it maybe grander than it is. This movie might be have a total that is greater than the sum of its parts to me. But I thought it really worked. The idea that the brother's been fucking the wife, you're like, yeah, it's kind of a throw-in, but I get it.
But there's little hints. There's little hints
You
throughout.
found hints that the brother was fucking...
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, because she did call him.
She called the brother. And I've seen enough movies.
She definitely looked like a miserable housewife.
Where you start getting those like, you're a little too close to this other person. Which, the
my brothers and wife do not talk like that ever.
Right. They drop some little hints.
Yeah.
Nothing that really hits you over the head with it, but stuff that when it's revealed, you go, oh yeah.
I think it's cleverly doled out. I really honestly do, right? Because when we find out it's him and he starts pummeling the new detective, I had a moment, I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect that, right? I thought maybe this was Pinhead was going to frame him for this crime and make an example of him so that he could... There's no better way to meet the masses in today's world than a true crime story, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a very good marketing choice, right? So I knew he was going to be involved. I didn't know how. When he hit her, I gasped. And when the brother comes in and the wife, and he's like, "Damn it, don't touch her." I was like, oh, shit. It was a great performance, right? He's really good. And he does the, backup's coming. No, it's not, but someone is. And again, we get into this weird, he's going to do a deal. That part doesn't really congeal that well. Fine.
Yeah, agreed.
What we get is the brother and the sister, or the wife, they see Pinhead and they're like, fuck. And he goes, your adultery is beneath me. Don't even fucking waste my time. They get dragged. I was like, yes. You guys aren't at the edge of pleasures, right?
No, those are small potatoes.
You're a rookie. You don't even have your basic pleasure badges on your Girl Scout sash. Be gone. And they're dragged out. They're literally thrown out of the story as if they don't matter, and they're the impetus for the serial murders. Love that. Thrown out, right? They start talking to this guy. This is where the movie, to me, really fucking settled in. That, oh my God, this is a top half Hellraiser movie for me. He makes the deal, right? He's like, I'm doing the Lord's work. I'll give you them. Let me go back out there and do whatever. And Pinhead is just like, that is not how this works. Right. That is not at all what's about to happen here, right? Evil seeks evil. You have entered my domain. You have been judged, and you have fucking failed. The angel steps in and wants to stop it. As Pinhead said, I think, right? It's a separate faction that wants you, and there is no bargaining with them.
Right.
You're going to the angels regardless, right? We think to be judged, right? That, there's a special punishment for you. Incorrect. The angels want him out there.
Yes.
Committing these biblically themed, insidious crimes. Because as they say, if there's evil in the world, they need to control it. They need the sheep to fear a wolf.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fucking awesome moment in the movie. I fucking loved it.
I love the line, sin ordained by heaven.
Yes. Yes. That, dude, come on. That is awesome. Right? And she even does the, good cannot exist without the evil. All that stuff. That alone would have been awesome enough for me, right? They take it up a notch. Again, this is me going, I fucking love it. And I don't want to pretend I don't. What I love even more than them saying, sin ordained by heaven. What I like even more is Pinhead saying, fuck you. I'm sick of this shit. I do not want to play along, right?
Right.
So he sends the fucking guy back, right? With pleasure. He feels like he's defeated, right? He is now the fucking middle manager of heaven's fucking whims, right? That would have been good enough. He comes back to life. The lady detective pops up and wastes him. Now he's back. And as he said, because you are, even the angel said, she's like, no, you're a killer and a deviant, a horrible person. You will be have judged. You will have judgment waiting. And then the little fucking goggle guy, and we'll be there, right? His little like almost Nazi scientist voice. Yeah. We'll be waiting. So Pinhead sends him back knowing he's going to get got so that his fucking judgment can begin, right? The angel starts going in. There will be retaliation. There will be this. You will suffer. And Pinhead fucking snaps. And I kind of wrote some of this down. Suffer. How dare you use such a word? I welcome its warm embrace. Right? And he starts doing his like Pinhead shit, but to an angel. Like a right hand of God angel. Like a high up. And he just goes, perhaps it's time for you to learn a little about the affairs you meddle in. He fucking hooks the angel. You're just like, oh shit. Stabs his fucking pens into her forehead, just seemingly to embarrass. He's not hurting her, right? Whatever. And then he just goes, are you the way? Which Pinhead has said like 10 times in the franchise, right? This desecration of Jesus's line. And, she, the angel just does like, whatever, I don't care. And he goes, I am all you know now. I am forged in pain and agony. Right? And he just does this like, you're mine now, angel. I'm going to fucking have at you. So all the shit we've seen dropped on the heads of these fucking perverts throughout the entire franchise. He's doing this now to like one of God's top lieutenants. An absolute spitting in the face of the Almighty. Right. And he fucking rips her face in half after she says that Jesus wept. If this is the last Hellraiser we ever got, that's a beautiful bookend to part 1, right? Rips the fucking face off the angel, whatever. His little henchman's like, what? Oh no, what do we do? He says, I have nothing to fear. And the henchman, does this like, there might be something we're afraid of, right? Banishment. Pinhead's ultimate punishment, right? Pinhead, who we've seen through this series get jockeyed around back and forth, takes a stand against the cruel God that's put him in this unwinnable game, this game of flesh. Finally takes his stand. And God doesn't save all the people from the serial killer, doesn't even save the angel. Lets the angel get fucked up to not 5 seconds later takes Pinhead to his own personal hell, which is to be back in the mortal realm as a vagrant. He sits in front of a giant box, which presumably people live in, and he just, the sweet suffering, no! And he's a fucking human again.
He's mortal.
He's just immortal. There's no more fucking pleasures. He's back. He can go seek down the box and the punishments. He's got to start back from the beginning where all this started. We see him and he's probably like a World War I soldier, right? When Pinhead starts. Right. He's got to go all the way back. Now he's just another guy seeking pleasures. And maybe will never be allowed to have them. He might have to live as a mortal in this world with no pleasures. God's ultimate punishment at the end of this 10-movie arc might be to make Pinhead to where the best it can be for him is to be a suburban square. I can't imagine he can jerk off. He can have sex. He can get drunk. He can smoke cigarettes. He has no fucking joy coming to him. He's going to exist in a pleasureless flesh. His flesh will become a tomb and a curse like the Christian mythology wants us to think. And I'm not here to fucking pretend. It's awesome. This movie is fucking awesome. I'm not going to sit here and fucking debate people on it. That ending is fucking righteous. People will tell me that Hellseeker, which is the worst Hellraiser movie by a mile, is good because of the ending. The ending of this movie is fucking 100 times better and more gratifying and interesting. I'm not here to lie that this movie isn't awesome. What do you make of all that? I kind of went on a long monologue there. I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
I didn't let you jump in about your Pinhead versus the Angels. And
you needed to put that out there.
I feel a responsibility to take the head of the Phalanx fighting the hordes of monsters that do not appreciate Hellraiser Judgment. I think this is a legitimately awesome movie and a great entry into the franchise. So what did you make of Pinhead versus Angel versus God?
So
sorry.
I really I did enjoy their showdown.
Yeah.
And Pinhead standing up and being like, "No, fuck that.
This is my realm."
You know, I really enjoyed that.
Awesome.
I like that it's kind of cool for you get this contrast and in that scenario, Pinhead, the purity of Pinhead, the purity of the Cenobites, there is no hypocrisy with them. Like, it is what it is. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Versus the hypocrisy of an agent of heaven that would knowingly send out this killer.
As she says earlier in that room full of light, the first time we see the angel, she says there are rules to this game. Right. So not only is she breaking the rules, or God is, also the fact that we're just calling this a game totally takes the piss out of everything Pinhead is about. Totally.
So I really enjoyed that. Now, Pinhead's punishment, I think the idea of it is very cool.
Yeah.
The visual execution was a little cheesy to me.
I agree with you there. This is still low budget horror territory.
Yes. Yeah. So the idea of it I thought was really cool. And
I think it's better than the other movies where we usually see him just, no, and he's blown up or sucked in the box.
Right.
I like seeing him try. I agree with you. Visually, this movie is lacking at times, right? I feel like there are scenes where they really put their mind to it and are visually arresting. This final shot is not among them.
Right.
So I agree with you on that.
To your point, the idea behind it and like what it says about humanity is really interesting and really cool. And does like make sense when you think about what the Cenobites are about, like what their existence is and the role that they've played. How do you punish the Punisher? Like, how do you punish the torturer?
The man who lives in agony and torment. Right. See, so not only what it says about humans, but what it says about God. So this man has been on this path for a long time. He's sent back to just be a pleasureless human. For all of his journey to the far edges, to where he went from, military man to the fucking face of agony, the face of torture and pain, as he says, right? To just be back there in a hoodie on this street. I'm assuming pleasureless. I'm assuming this guy can get no gratification and will just walk the earth forever as a pleasureless vessel, watching other people pursue the pleasure in the flesh, and he can't, right? He'll just bear witness. Sure. What that says about him and God, right? For this franchise to come all the way back to Pinhead being just put back. All that shit was for nothing. All of those sights and everything you've seen are for nothing. And you will still be an empty husk that can get no pleasure is fucking startling.
Yeah.
And the fact that God didn't... Okay, so here's my big fan theory before tomorrow's episode. I wonder if Pinhead in the new movie could possibly be the angel from this movie.
Oh.
Right? So we're
That would be
recording this
interesting.
in September, early September. So if that comes to fruition, you're welcome.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm assuming that they threw out a lot of the Hellraiser sequels before this new one. That would be cool, though.
It
If
would
that
be
angel
cool.
becomes the new fucking hell priest, right?
It's a good idea.
That would be awesome. But just this whole like rotating who's in charge and who gets to do what. Pinhead realizing that he is not the face of pain. That
Right.
he is just another fucking middleman doing this other deity's work. And that it might not matter or have... He has no artistic integrity as a fucking ripper of flesh. I just thought that was cool, man. The idea that
Yeah.
the last image we might see of Hellraiser is Pinhead back on Earth is just wonderful. I thought the serial killer story was wonderful. I thought the new House of Horrors was wonderful. Injecting the angels was wonderful. Tackling the big religious question. I'm not here to lie. You know what? This movie might be better than Inferno. I might jump it up another notch. I don't know if it can jump Hell on Earth to me, but me. I'm not here to lie. Why did everyone watch this movie and just say it was dog shit, right? Again, I get it with Revelations. That movie has a lot more warts than this. This is a perfectly efficient engine that gets us to really big, fun headspaces with the Hellraiser mythology. What the fuck else did you people want from this movie? I'm literally fucking baffled as to why anyone would just, even if you just said it was all right, but raw hatred for this movie? How have you watched 9 other Hellraiser movies, got to this one, and you're like, that sucks? If you don't like Hellraiser, I get it. If you like these movies, how could you not be entertained? I don't
know. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if for some folks it's just hard to see because it's so kind of low budget, and that's
sure.
I mean, that's clear. Like
the movie doesn't hide that.
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's no hiding that. And I wonder. But you know what's interesting is like compare this with Revelations. Like Revelations obviously also had a small budget, and they did the kind of things that's customary to do when you have a small budget, which is, you know, 1 or 2 settings.
Yep.
Very, you know, small cast, do the found footage thing.
Yep.
Like some of those tricks of the trade to maximize a small budget.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think, took some big swings.
Yeah.
Especially considering that they don't have a Constantine budget. They don't have a 7 budget, but they're doing some of those. Yeah. They're trying to do some of those same kind of visual things.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
I don't see right off the finger of what I'm looking at what the budget for this was $350,000, right? $350,000. So that's not nothing, but let's see. So Hellraiser, let's just say Inferno, right? Straight to video, also low budget, $2 million, right? So Hellraiser Inferno, which runs very parallel with this, a direct to video sequel, $2 million, right? Almost 7 times the budget that this movie would have, 6-7 times the budget. Is Hellraiser Inferno wildly more efficient in how they deliver our examination of the Hellraiser universe than Judgment? I would say the exact opposite.
Right.
This one does not. This movie, while having constraints of a small production, has big fucking ideas.
Big ideas.
That's what you fucking want. The storyline and narrative of the Hellraiser series is altered and changed from the moment this sequel hits on. Hellraiser Inferno could get plucked out and have no fucking effect on the franchise whatsoever.
Impact.
Literally no impact. It's just another version of the same thing. This movie has impact. And I think that's important, right? When you're on especially on your 10th fucking sequel.
Oh,
to have
for sure.
maybe the biggest fucking storyline beat since part 3. I don't know. I am shocked. I think we as horror community maybe need to have a little punishment for ourselves as a community. I think right now, over the last 5-10 years, have been such a new golden age of horror. We get so much amazing horror, right? Great large budget horror. Great no budget horror. We have great streaming services like Shudder that bring us old horror movies that could have been lost and we've never had access to, but now we're at our fingertips, right?
Yeah. And originals. That they put out.
We have high art horror. We have down in the muck horror. We have kind of fan love letters to horror. We have so much good horror everywhere that I think sometimes we so callously throw away these movies and just shit on them. And we don't stop and appreciate how nice it is to have another really good Hellraiser sequel, right? I think we have grown soft and gluttonous as a community. That's my theory why we didn't appreciate Hellraiser. I honestly don't understand. You know it's a Hellraiser sequel. You know it has a small budget, right? You know there's going to be some bumps on the road.
Sure.
How could you not find this an interesting addition to the franchise at large? I think that's fucking crazy. And Pinhead looks awesome. Because Revelations, I get it. If you immediately are like, I can't do this Pinhead, I understand. I feel like this one hits across the board everything I like about Hellraiser, horror, and deep sequels. I think it really fucking checks all the boxes for me.
Well, and I'm going to say a thing that's probably going to piss some people off, but that's fine.
Yeah, do it. They need it. They need it.
That's fine. You did Halloween, the Halloween series. Yeah. And there have been films that have come out since, right?
We did Halloween 2 together. Rob Zombie's also hated. We are now we're the horror movie Lost Cause patron saints.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like the vanguard of. Yeah.
Do you have a hated horror movie that you want someone to passionately defend? We're your guy. We're your peeps.
We're here.
We got you.
So like if you look at some of the most recent Halloween sequels, like, and I'm not saying that there's no merit to those films. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying it's the same old shit, man.
Yeah. Well, I think they do a lot good, right? I like the new Halloween series. There is as Pinhead says in the last, not a deficit of flesh, a deficit of ideas.
Right. There's a lot of kind of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. No, Halloween got a movie that said, hey, what if this is an ancient druidic curse?
Right.
And people went, I don't want to think that much.
And nobody wanted it. And
they yanked it out.
Right.
That was an awesome storyline.
So I think it's like, give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, hell yeah.
10 movies into the Hellraiser franchise.
Earth-shattering
and there's, yes. And there are some really fascinating places that they're taking this story to.
Yeah.
They're adding to the lore in an interesting way. Not in just like let's just keep regurgitating the same thing over and over way.
Absolutely.
It's cool.
So Friday the 13th, the 10th movie would be, based on your counting, Freddy versus Jason or the reboot, right? Fine movies, not a lot of ideas. You know what I mean? Halloween, you'd be in Rob Zombie territory. New ideas. People got mad at that. They didn't like it, right?
Yeah, people were mad.
People hated Halloween 2. Hate that fucking movie. Not a lot of other franchises even get up that high.
True.
You know what I mean? A lot of the franchises I love, Nightmare on Elm Street made it close to 10, right? You could be talking about reboot territory, and Freddy versus Jason is in that range. Again, not big ideas. The Nightmare on Elm Street reboot just said, oh yeah, he was definitely a diddler. You're like, well, we knew. We didn't have to like put such a bow on it. But yeah, you know what I mean? I appreciate that they weren't, again, especially Hellraiser often suffered from the spec script that just has Pinhead forced into it. This took the spec script angle, right? The we want to make 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, Inferno felt like a movie that Pinhead did not belong in and then was put in. This is not that. The serial killer story specifically weaponizes the Hellraiser icons to devastating effect, I think.
Yeah.
right? It feels like an actual fully formed Hellraiser idea. And I really love that, right? If this had been the end, I think this is a wonderful, terrific send-off for the Hellraiser franchise, but it's not. We have another one tomorrow. We're going to find out that poor angel is the new Pinhead, and I'm going to have scored some genius points. No. But that's what I mean. I didn't expect to want more Pinhead or need it after Doug Bradley, right? I think what we've seen is that Pinhead and the Hellraiser mythology has so much more flesh to explore.
Absolutely.
Right? That these characters and this idea, they fit across all times, demographics. I mean, we'll never live at a point where people are unsatisfied and go looking for the answers to why we're so miserable.
Yes.
And Judgment reinstilled in me the faith of like, oh, well, if Doug Bradley's not doing it, the further we are from Clive Barker, I'm out. I felt rejuvenated. I was like, give me another fucking 10 Hellraiser movies. That's how I felt at the end of this. And I think that has a lot of value.
No, I hear you. I think, and that just goes to say how amazing Clive Barker's creation is.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes it's really easy to get into that attitude of like, you know, number 10 of a franchise is shitting all over the original and it's watered down. But I think in this case, none of them touch the genius of the first Hellraiser and of Clive Barker's, the story and the characters and the mythos that he created. There's so much depth and there's so much to explore about the Hellraiser story. Mm-hmm. And you can continue to do these, and there's something interesting to be said, and there's something interesting to explore. 10 movies later.
Yeah. Well, how about that? Even the one little crime scene when it was just like hands with zip ties on them holding teeth and eyeballs.
Oh, that
jars
was
of
cool.
blood. Like, that's a great visual. That's just shoehorned in there. We talked for an hour. We didn't even talk about that. That was cool.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I mean, come on. That's pretty cool.
Just, I mean, I don't know. I'm just not here to pretend that this movie's not awesome. I think what we'll see, right? Me and Alex started and you helped us finish this off, right? The Hellraiser series has a lot of high highs and some pretty bad lows, right? The one thing none of the movies were bad enough to do is make me want less Pinhead in my life.
Yeah.
And by the end of Judgment, I cannot wait to return to the world of the Cenobites. And I'm so full of hope and optimism for the new Hellraiser movie and hopefully a fuckload more of new Hellraiser movies. I just feel very inspired, man. I think it really achieved a lot. I don't know. I might have to jump it up over Inferno, and that would make it a top 4 Hellraiser movie for me. I feel like we just talked me into it. I feel all pumped up.
That's significant.
That's significant. My hope is that tomorrow's episode on the new Hellraiser movie, the 2022 Hellraiser, will jump way up that list too. It's going to be a tall order to jump over number 1. But if this is the second best Hellraiser movie ever, God forbid, what if it's the first fucking greatest Hellraiser movie ever? I cannot wait. I am sure that we will enjoy it. You sadly will not be able to join us because in the future you will be on vacation as we do it. But I'm sure you'll be enjoying Hellraiser.
I will be with you in spirit.
Yes. Right? As long as you're enjoying and watching the movies. I hope you had a good time.
I can't wait to listen to your coverage of it.
Oh, I'm so excited, man. I hope you enjoyed this tail end. Again, and I might have mentioned this in one of the 3. When I asked you to help fill in, I said, if you hate these movies so much, I gave you a whenever you want to quit card. I was fully prepared to talk about all 3 of these by myself because I didn't think you would like them at all. So it was a pleasure having you along. I think this was a really good ending of this franchise. I think we did some good work here, Carmelita.
I do too. I watched these over the course of 2 days. It was the first watch.
Yeah.
For all 3 of them. I had a lot of fun watching them. I had a lot of fun thinking about them, like in preparation. Yes. And of course, I knew we would have fun talking about them, and we did.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And I'm just gonna say, Film Alchemist listeners, listen. If you're one of those folks that hates this movie, so be it. That's okay. That's fine. It's all subjective. Everybody.
No, it's not. No, I'm just kidding.
But I would say maybe after you listen to this episode, maybe go back and watch it.
Give it a gander.
You might, like, we might have stirred something in you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree. I've always told people one of my favorite episodes of our show ever was the Halloween 2 one we did. Because I felt like we were so out of step with everyone else in the world. It felt like we needed to get that out of our systems, and it was great.
Right.
Man. That's how I felt today, too.
Yeah, there's a lot about this film, about Hellraiser Judgment, that is worthwhile.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it for Hellraiser Judgment. Not quite the end of Hellraiser, because we'll be back tomorrow to discuss the brand new Hellraiser 22, hot off the presses. Hopefully we fucking love it. If we don't, you will notice that there is no Hellraiser episode tomorrow. So if the podcast that drops tomorrow is not Hellraiser, you'll know something went terribly wrong.
Something went
wrong. And you'll be prepared to start your Wishmaster franchise. If we made it through Wishmaster 3, we can make it through any Hellraiser.
You can make it through any Hellraiser.
So you guys know the deal. The horror movie mega marathon, 31 days, 31 pods. An enormous undertaking we can only do with the help of our great friends like Carmelita. We put in a lot of effort, hoping to give you guys something special every October. If you could help us out with a little support, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod is the best way to do that. A big exclusive library. We have commentaries. We have some miniseries coming. All kinds of fun stuff over there. Gives you a voice in the stuff we cover, right? So we really work hard to try to make sure that's worth your time and support. So please do that if you can. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. Share it all over your socials, right? That's something free and easy you can do to help us draw more people, right? Be our little puzzle boxes out there recruiting for us. That's what we want. And 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you can. I will be back tomorrow to see you for the Hellraiser series finale. We have a long way to go in our October Mega Marathon. I hope you're all having as much fun as we've been. One more time, thank you so much for helping me finish this out, Carmelita. You can find her again later in the month during her Night of the Demon episode, which was fucking awesome to talk about as well. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you before we jump out of here?
Sure. Film Alchemist listeners can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd. Same handle for both, Carmelita Says.
That's right, at Carmelita Says. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, friends.